So, what is the Mandela Effect? At its very core, the concept of the Mandela Effect is that things, people, places, even products have changed. The Mandela Effect was first used online by Fiona Bloom in 2010. She reported that a number of people and herself came to the epiphany that the now-deceased president of South Africa had actually died in prison. Even though he was president in 1994, and in the same year his presidency ended, he founded the Nelson Mandela Foundation in 1999. His actual death was in 2013 at the age of 95, and he was a pretty cool guy. So who were these people that Mrs. Bloom had this shaking revelation with? Was it some intellectual think tank? A gathering of enlightened philosophers? No, it was at the sci-fi fantasy convention known as DragonCon. Now, I'm not saying that intellectuals and philosophers don't gather at conventions, especially sci-fi conventions, but DragonCon isn't exactly Mensa. I find it interesting that a person who clutches so tightly to the title of consultant would not feel the urge to investigate a matter in a more assertive way. But then again, she is a paranormal consultant, and I'm not really sure what that means. As far as I understand it, it means paranormal investigator. So if anybody has actual information on what a paranormal consultant is, will you please make a comment down below? Now, I want to make it clear what I'm doing with this video. I've gone through and read a lot of arguments dealing with the Mandela Effect, things that deal with CERN and Hadron Colliders and whatnot, but I've collected what I think might be the most basic sources of information down to its roots, or what I hope is down to its roots. Now, this video is pretty short, but it's going to be part of a 3-part series. So the next 2 videos that I make on the Mandela Effect will go as so. One will deal with the scientific implications and concepts surrounding the Mandela Effect. The other one will go through the biblical applications. But more on that in those videos. Now, many of you might have ran into an argument like this.
And there are haters out there that will say, like, you guys just have bad memory. Like, maybe you thought it was that way, but it was actually just this way all along. Well, if you are one of those people, we don't have time for you today. Like, either hop on the Mandela Effect train or, like, take a fucking taxi, bitch. Like, we don't have time for your shit. I hate when people are like, the Mandela Effect is just like, you have bad memory. Oh, yeah, me and, like, a million other people, like, all have the same bad memory of the same thing.
This is not an argument. What Condescension Barbie isn't telling you is that this argument it's a play on the good old logical fallacy, argumentum ad populum. Just because a lot of people believe in something doesn't make it true. An example, if about 99% of the population of the world decided that Abe Lincoln founded the Lincoln Motor Company, the remaining 0.9% of people who disagree would in fact be correct. But the thing is, the brain is a powerful and sometimes fickle lump of meaty jello. It benefits from constant recall of memories that have a pesky habit of changing. The brain is like any other organ in the body, and it's not a perfect biological system. It's essentially a biological hard drive, motherboard hybrid thing. The brain has its inefficiencies and its limitations. For instance, nobody's actually been able to display actual total memory recall, aka eidetic memory, that our computer hard drives can perform in most cases. Everybody's memory is fallible. Sometimes the brain mixes up memories with other memories, alters memories due to lack of recalling memories. Chemicals and injuries can also push consequential results on a person's mind, this sometimes leading to rare beneficial effects, such as the curious case of John Paget, who apparently acquired savant syndrome after suffering a cranial injury as he was being mugged sometime in the early 2000s. Now, so what is it about the brain? What is causing these Mandela effects? Well, psychologists have a name for it, and the term is confabulation. It's a purely unconscious effect. Basically, it's when your brain compensates for certain holes in your memory. To put it in more very simple terms, your brain is kind of lying to you. Check out more on what confabulation is down there in the link that I'm providing in the description. A lot of this, I believe, is limited by cognitive bias and sometimes fueled by bad science. People don't like being wrong or when their perceptions are questioned. It causes them dis-ease, and a lot of times, because the idea is comforting, they don't choose to investigate it. But no belief is worth having if it isn't worth challenging. So let's have a quick look at some of the more common versions of the scientific-based evidence that people are pushing around and hooking on to when it comes to the Mandela Effect.
And one of the theories for this happening is that some people think that we have actually switched into a different parallel universe.
According to scientists, parallel realities do exist, and we seem to be sliding between them without even realizing it.
Or some people think that maybe somebody traveled back in time and changed something small, and then that thing affected a lot of other things.
But there's no support for this appealing idea. The extraordinary claims are not supported by extraordinary evidence.
The misuse of the word theory is really common whenever it comes to scientific claims, especially with the concept of what a scientific theory is. The colloquial use of the word is generally a minor idea or a moment of intuition that makes sense in an everyday situation. We look for simple answers because everyday problems tend to be minor, but not when dealing with something as complex as quantum mechanics or exobiology. In science, a theory is a completely different concept. It's a completely different monster altogether. Theories describe laws and mechanisms that envelop facts. By this, a person could argue that they are on a level above laws or even facts because they explain how facts work. The biggest thing that separates the concept of a scientific theory as opposed to the colloquial usage is that scientific theories are backed up by the scientific method and peer review. That will also be the subject of a later video. I'm no physicist, but I can tell you this. The quantum world deals with the extremely small and explains how electromagnetic waves and particles like atoms and protons exist, interact, and react. Reality acts very different at that scale, whereas the concept of the multiverse, while mathematically probable, is still in a hypothetical stage. We have yet to actually observe any actual other universes, much less one that would support life. But when you're trying to compare things we don't understand, we often substitute the closest answer that fits with the mystery. And that's what this is. That's what the Mandela Effect is. It's answering a mystery with another mystery. But with a lack of investigation, we often find that we are sticking a square peg in a round hole. And if we try to pound on it hard enough, it's gonna fit. While science might provide some answers and possible answers, we can find ourselves being influenced by movies, books, video games, or anything else that can help us make the answer fit the question. But this is a lack of investigation, reasoning, and even curiosity. We could discover awful truths, things that threaten our beliefs, or even worse, that we are wrong. Heavy proofs can be hurtful things. But remember, a real proof must be something demonstrable. You must be able to show how it works in detail. Claims of time travelers shifting into other parallel universes simply isn't proof. And this is because we can't show it.
And you would be within your right to accuse us of being crazy if it wasn't for leftover residue from the original reality. You see, on the 1st of October 1991, there was a book published called English Alive. Now, on page 54 of this book, it clearly states that Nelson Mandela died on the 23rd of July 1991. This is a non-fiction publication, which means the creator assumes responsibility for the truth of accuracy of the events presented.
Correct, but wrong. An author is held responsible for claims that are made in their writing. But that isn't a claim, though. If anything, it's a prediction. This isn't a history book, and it doesn't even claim to be. Also, a non-fiction publication can display fiction when certain parts hold the purpose to feature fiction. The book English Alive is a collection of writings that were written in 1990. It's right there in the title of the book.
You see, on the 1st of October 1991,
the page clearly says English Alive 1990, Writings from High Schools in South Africa. But the text claims his death was in 1991. This makes the book a confusing adage, but with a bit of investigation, a complete non-issue. I know this is my first video, but I feel that it might be lacking in some more specific points. In the next few weeks, I will be putting out a few more videos on this subject. But I'm going to set a pseudo rule right now at the beginning of this channel. I will only make a maximum of about 3 videos per debunking subject. That is, unless a reply video pops up or a heavy correction is needed. My knowledge of science is limited, and I can only hope that I learn more.